At the onset, I want to congratulate my committee member colleague, the specially elected Senator Beatrice Ogola from Homa Bay delegation. Mr. Speaker, it's rare to see commandeering between delegations like Senator Kajwang and Senator Beatrice Ogola. But of course, anybody who would not want to be friendly with Senator Beatrice.
Senator Cherargei, did you say commandeering?
No, how can, yes.
Say
it depends. It
Withdraw
depends.
the earlier statement,
It depends
then
where.
say it appropriately.
Yes. What do you mean small English? The warm and hospitable
It is
relationship
called
they have.
camaraderie.
Oh yes, yes. Mr. Speaker, I want to remain relevant to the debate of the House. I don't know why Senator Eddy is excited. Anyway, he's normally excited when I'm speaking. But I'm impressed by the relationship that they have, professional relationship. It's rare. I've seen a number of delegations here fighting even. Mr. Speaker, even your former senator, there were so many letters that were flying around, even to allow to vote. And I know Senator Kajwang understands what we went through in the last session. Mr. Speaker, Senator Beatrice Ogola continues to distinguish herself as a he for she and she for he in this House. Mr. Speaker, I've had a misnomer to try and paint us good sons and gentlemen of Africa to behave as if we don't support he for she and she for he. I want to put the record straight that anything that allows our society to flourish, and Mr. Speaker, I see people saying it is important, even as men, we need to be taken care of. Because, Mr. Speaker, under Article 26, life begins at conception, Mr. Speaker. You need also a man who is well-fed, well-kept, so that you get quality seeds, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, or Mr. Speaker, you get the quality at the conception, Mr. Speaker. Because also you don't want to have men who are shooting blanks, Mr. Speaker. We want men who are shooting live bullets, in quotes, Mr. Speaker, to make, because I have heard women saying, women senators, some of them saying here, Mr. Speaker, that, that men don't care about women. We care, but how will you get pregnant without men who can shoot live bullets, Mr. Speaker, and ensure that you get pregnant? So men also, and I know men, the other day we fired our chair, who was Stephen Leto. We have given Chairman Oparanya, the former governor, to be the chair of men's conference, so that some of these issues we can highlight during men's conference, Mr. Speaker. The point I'm trying to make, Mr. Speaker, this is a conversation that we cannot, Mr. Speaker, this is a conversation we cannot have in isolation. It is about also a third gender rule. Mr. Speaker, I want to call upon my colleague, female or women senators, that let us have a conversation where we rally men and women together, so that we work. We want a father who is loving. Under Article 53, Mr. Speaker, it talks about parental care. When you look at the Children Act of 2022, Mr. Speaker, number 29 of 2022, the Children's Act. And I was lucky to be taught the children and the law by my good brother and my mentor, Professor Wabwile, Mr. Speaker, who taught us about the children law, Mr. Speaker. So we need men and women, we need fathers and mothers. Because when a child is born, the Constitution talks about Article 53, the parental care. So the man only, we should stop this misnomer that the business of a man ends after, Mr. Speaker, after impregnating a woman. We should also know, Mr. Speaker, the role of the father continues beyond the pregnancy. You know, I saw somebody saying, Mr. Speaker, that men only come in, that they saw their wives or women getting pregnant, then they are being told a child is born. That is not true. Mr. Speaker, there are many men in this city and across the country who are going with their women to antenatal clinics, Mr. Speaker, who are taking them, who are even taking care of the children, Mr. Speaker. So this is a conversation that involves everyone, Mr. Speaker. We must appreciate the fact that women play a critical role. Mr. Speaker, we have been told, according to research, that even children who do not have a father figure end up with some weird behaviors. We have been told on several occasions, Mr. Speaker, because the father figure is an authority. And that is why the drafters of the Constitution, I'm not casting aspersion, Mr. Speaker, on single parents, either single fathers or mothers. What I'm putting across is that the father figure and parental responsibility is a joint effort. It is a 50-50 effort. So we want to urge men, especially people who are yet to get married, who are yet to start procreating, like Senator Eddie, Mr. Speaker, to learn these things from elders like some of us. We have our brother, Senator Dr. Boni Khalwale, who can be of great help, because I know his expertise goes beyond what I've seen and I've imagined, Mr. Speaker. So that is the essence. We must agree and have a shared conversation, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let us, and I want to agree, when Senator Beatrice Ogola proposed this law, I went to the Children's Act. And I realized she's right, because I was asking myself, Mr. Speaker, the Children's Act has extrapolated, as you know, as a senior lawyer in this country, has extrapolated Article 53 on the rights of children, like parental care, right to be given a name, right for parental care, Mr. Speaker, right to be given a name, right to basic free and compulsory basic education, right to basic nutrition, shelter and health care, protected from abuse, neglect, harmful cultural practices, and, Mr. Speaker, parental care and protection, of course. Therefore, the children are supposed to be protected from abusive cultures. In this country, we still have cultures who practice FGM, Mr. Speaker, in some communities, which is still a big challenge in the emancipation and the freedom for the issue of girl-child in this republic, Mr. Speaker. We still have communities where children as young girls are 6 years, as less than 10 years, are doing for marriage matchmaking, Mr. Speaker. I know it is dominant in other communities, Mr. Speaker. Those are what we call cultures that are harmful to the growth of the child, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and therefore when you look at the Children's Act 2022, it's just expropriates rights, and I'm happy Senator Ogola has extrapolated and say taking care of the child from 0 days to 12 years. That is when the child now enters into teenagehood, adolescent stage, into graduating into adulthood, Mr. Speaker. Although in some cases we have had at 16 years, the consent can be achieved in some other jurisdictions. Mr. Speaker, and therefore I only wanted to amend that we should start from conception. We see how we can do it, and then the newborn, maternal, newborn, and then a child health care, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'll just make 4 points before I allow my colleagues to also continue. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of postpartum, I agree that we need to look, because most of the women, Mr. Speaker, others because of economic challenges, because of the nature of their well-being, we must look at issues of postpartum issue, Mr. Speaker, the mental well-being. When we discuss, and I remember, Mr. Speaker, in the last session, I am happy the government had opened a mental wellness center. I think it was somewhere in Rongai or in Kajiado County, and the president went and lodged it. We did debate, Mr. Speaker, for the longest time on mental health bill at the floor of this house. And these are some of the issues like depression. We are losing many young Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, I read a sad story. I don't know, a young girl, Mr. Speaker, decided to jump to some river, I don't know which county was this, and a child strapped at her back, a young child. And she left a note that I cannot die alone and leave my child. And I know members have seen in the news, Mr. Speaker, that could be postpartum depression, Mr. Speaker. We must look at the mental well-being, especially their body changes to a woman when they get pregnant. They also struggle, you know, when they give birth. There is that challenge in their well-being, and it can affect even their mental wellness. And therefore, I agree that we must address, because to avoid suicidal thoughts, Mr. Speaker, sometimes there are people who become deadbeats. Others just shoot like snipers and disappear. Mr. Speaker, it might bring depression and stress to most of our young girls and ladies, Mr. Speaker. But I want to advise, because I'm a man, for free, that before you get pregnant for anybody, Mr. Speaker, you must be sure this is the guy. Check the quality of the genes or seeds, if you like, in quotes, and then check that if that person can hang around. You know, Mr. Speaker, the nature of men are hunters and gatherers. Mr. Speaker, that's beside the point. Another point I wanted to make is clause 5. Of course, I have said this standard maternal and youth. The child health, that is Article 53, Mr. Speaker, talks specifically about the issue of child, right, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and I think in future, I don't know whether our standing orders allow. We used to have a former majority leader who used to read his submissions. But when you go to US, and I know Senator Eddy is an expert of issues of US, you find senators reading their presentation. I don't know what she will do, and I've seen even in Parliament of Uganda where people read their presentation, but I know maybe our common practice, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the issue of number 5, on the issue of course, culture, I've said that as leaders, we must be at the forefront to condemn some of the cultures that are harmful to our health. You know, some people, I know under the Jewish practice, a child is supposed to go under initiation within 8 days of being given birth, if my memory serves me right. There are some others, people would want to see some tattoos and many others. I know, Mr. Speaker, you are aware there is a song that is famous that says in our local culture, Kijoran tattoo lakwet. And it is a common, so we don't know. What I translate is that a child has drawn a tattoo. And it's a serious, that song, Senator, talks about a child who has imprinted a tattoo. So they say, Kijoran tattoo lakwet, lakwani. So that is, so to some of those things allowed under the law, when you take a child, put them an imprint, put them a mark on their body, it could be culturally acceptable, but it is wrong because there is no consent. We have said the consent, Mr. Speaker, and we have practiced longer than some of us, is at 18 years. So what should we do? I know there is guardian alitem, as the law says. There is a guardianship, the role of suing through the next friend. But does another have a consent? Senator Beatrice, I don't know, you need to look at the legal jurisprudence, and the speaker you can sit with him so that he can give you the legal jurisprudence. If today I take my child to be done a cultural something, maybe an imprint or a tattoo, or something, a mark, when that child, I'm the guardian, am I allowed legally under the law to give consent on behalf of the child? So we need to have that exposition on that jurisprudence. Number 5, I agree, but I don't know. I know there are a number of people who are Catholics here, Mr. Speaker. On the issue of family planning, I'm happy she has captured something about not pregnant, but I know a number of us are Catholics, Mr. Speaker. A number of colleagues are Catholics. They say let the natural take its course, Mr. Speaker. They don't agree with how do you capture? I don't know how you will have a conversation with Catholics, for example, when it comes to issue of family planning, Mr. Speaker. I know the only family planning that has been captured in the Bible is the withdrawal process, Mr. Speaker, where another person was doing that in the Bible. So I think that has been captured. So the also of conception, it is in the Bible, Mr. Speaker. I'm not quoting something that is not in the Bible. Appropriate counseling, Mr. Speaker. Services for pregnant women, I agree, Mr. Speaker. Early detection and pregnancy, Mr. Speaker. I had a senator here say, and unfortunately she has left the chamber, that she doesn't know if she's pregnant or not. So I don't know, Mr. Speaker, but I agree that we must detect early. You know, some of the ectopic pregnancies or some of the miscarriages, Mr. Speaker, sometimes happen because maybe the mother or the girl or the lady or the woman does not know they are pregnant. So it is important for the antenatal care clinics for the visits that are there, Mr. Speaker. Preparation class, I don't know how relevant is this. I don't know whether in Africa, but maybe also traditional midwives that a senator had referred to, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, clause number 8, every health care provider shall provide to a child from time of birth to the age of 12 years. And I agree, so that that child at the age of 12 years. Mr. Speaker, another challenge is immunization. You know, there was a sect in Kitui, Mr. Speaker, and I know a number of us know that they refuse immunization. Even some of these sects that we have in the country, these people who are what we call religious extremism. You remember the issue of Shakahola, Mr. Speaker, debacle, where we were being told they were not allowed to eat, they were not allowed to take children for immunization. There were a number of, I remember in Kitui, there was a sect that did not agree their children to be immunized. What do you do about it? The issue of immunization, there have been allegations, Mr. Speaker, even through UNICEF, where allegations have been leveled that the immunization process, Mr. Speaker, has been, there were allegations that it is a way of controlling birth rate in Africa. So we need, apart from the resistance from some of the some communities, we also need to alleviate the fears that immunization is a way maybe to change DNA character of Africans or to control the birth rate, Mr. Speaker. So on this issue of immunization, I beseech Senator during the public participation or during the report writing, capture properly. I know, and it is worth to note that over 70% of our children, according to the latest findings by National Vaccine and Immunization Program in the country, have been vaccinated. Where are the 30%? And you know, Mr. Speaker, during COVID, I was told most Africans survive because we do immunization against polio, diphtheria, whooping cough, among others, Mr. Speaker. So we need to agree as a country that we need to move to 90% to ensure and encourage. I think the role of county government in this bill, and I want to thank the Senator, she has elaborated that awareness. We need to go to the village and tell that mama who did not go to school that they have children, Mr. Speaker, that you need to take them for immunization. That's how we will prevent diseases like polio, Mr. Speaker, among other diseases. So that a child, if the child needs special needs, and I'm happy the PWDs have been captured, Mr. Speaker. You know, there are children who have special needs. I see some parents, and it is wrong to hide a child who has special needs or PWD child. I want to encourage parents, if you get a child, it is not by design or because, Mr. Speaker, if you have been given a specially needy child through or a PWD child, seek services. Let them take them to special schools. We have the special school for blind in Kibos. We have another one in Kapsabet. We have small homes that are being run by the Catholic government across the country. Let us all, Mr. Speaker, and ensure so that we take care of those children. They are special. They are unique. We have our special Senator Christola Sige. She's doing extremely well than other well-able senators. I'm not saying, but considering the perception that we have created. Mr. Speaker, finally, on the issue of services for women with special, Mr. Speaker, I heard Senator say here, and Senator Ledama should listen to this. I have been, Mr. Speaker, I have gone through these streets, even in many other areas. I always find that, Mr. Speaker, has it not shocked you that how can PWD, a woman who is PWD or what we call akili pungwani or a mental disorder is pregnant, Mr. Speaker? Who are impregnating these women, Mr. Speaker? Even in my area, a woman who was mentally disturbed, every season I used to pass, I see her, she's pregnant. Until the local dispensary in my place had to cut off the fallopian tubes, Mr. Speaker. Or how can we put it? Had to put it on family planning, Mr. Speaker. Because how on earth would somebody impregnate a mentally disturbed man? How do they do it, Mr. Speaker? This is shocking. It is a shame, Mr. Speaker, but I'm happy the issue of PWD has been captured here, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the functions of county government, of course, and national government is highlighted, fourth schedule policy. Mr. Speaker, the issue of county assembly and reporting to parliament, I agree for accountability purposes. I want to encourage Senator Ogola, who is deeply engaged with Senator Ledama, that they should attach to the reports that the president normally tables, especially on human rights aspect. Mr. Speaker, the MCS must allocate budget. I agree with that, Mr. Speaker. And also vulnerable groups and identification of these vulnerable groups on how to assist. I'm aware with the floods, Mr. Speaker, like my tragedy here in Nairobi and across the country. There are many people, Mr. Speaker, who because of one thing or another, they have lost their parents. They have become orphans overnight. We need also to ensure they are captured. Mr. Speaker, Holland said, I want to assure the women of this country that men are he for she and she for he, because without women, we are not there. Without men, we are not there. We must exist through symbiotic relationship because God has put us together. So I know this, and in fact, I want to encourage Senator Ogola, when she takes this bill to National Assembly, should look for a man to co-sponsor the bill so that we own together. These children belong to all of us, Senator Amida. They are our children. You need a man to make them, and you need a man to take care of them. Mr. Speaker, the food that we eat is provided by men, Mr. Speaker. And I know provided by men and women, Mr. Speaker. And Senator, one of the senior most parent in this house, Senator Kalwala, agrees with me because he has seen a lot. Mr. Speaker, did you see he was training his son to be a bullfighter like him? That is why most children grow up to be like their fathers, Mr. Speaker. And I'm impressed, apart from being a student of university in one of the reputable universities in this country, he's training him to be a bullfighter, Mr. Speaker, but I hope he will just train him for bullfighting only, not for politics. Mr. Speaker, with those many remarks, congratulate my sister and wish well. We hope to see this bill in fruition. I support Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator